All right, so this video is going to be about how germ theory fails the scientific method, and in fact, it never has satisfied the scientific method or anything even remotely close to it. And the first question I want to get into is, what is the definition of pseudoscience? So the dictionary definition of pseudoscience is anything that purports to be scientific but avoids the scientific method. So anything claiming to be scientific but does not utilize the scientific method to establish their results is by definition pseudoscience. And that is exactly what germ theory is. Germ theory has never, by any type of scientific method or anything, again, even close, satisfied or been satisfied. So the issue with that is that essentially the majority of mainstream medicine is based off of it. Everything from antibiotics to vaccines to antifungals to all these things, it's based upon this idea that we're going to war with germs, that there's all these microbes out there that are trying to invade us and take over and damage our cells and take over our body. And that's just simply not true. And I'm going to get into why that's not true and what actually is going on in the body. So just like when you see roadkill on the side of the road one day, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, a couple of days later, you go back and the entire carcass is gone. Well, what's going on there? Those are saprophytic microbes that are eating away and recycling the necrotic tissue and recycling it back into the earth. They're recycling the dead, decaying necrotic tissue and putting it back into the earth. Well, that doesn't just happen on the side of the road with roadkill. That very same exact concept happens inside our bodies. These so-called quote-unquote harmful organisms, they only feed on necrotic tissue. They don't affect healthy tissue. And this is like blaming firefighters for being present at the cause of fires. Just because they're present doesn't mean that they're the cause of why there's a fire to begin with. They're not causing the fires. They're there to help put out the fire. And that's exactly what these microbes are doing. They are there to actually help our body recycle and get rid of the dead and decaying tissue in our body. And in fact, that's their role. If there was no necrotic tissue, they wouldn't be there. So allopathic medicine, modern medicine, what they like to do is they like to go into these areas of the body and they like to test them for certain microbes, even though they will admit on one end that all of these microbes that they blame for diseases also exist in high amounts in the human body in healthy people too. But they're just going to say, oh, they have better immune system, or they have better quote unquote antibodies, which I can get into antibodies as well. But a lot of these microbes that they claim to cause disease are present in non-disease states. So this goes back to the whole proving the scientific method, or through the scientific method, that these microbes are the causative factor for why somebody is getting sick. And that's never been done. It's never been done. And so there's two ways you can look at it. And I used to look at it the first way that I'm about to describe, which is that two terrain ways of looking at it, I should say, is that number one is that you could just build your terrain up so strong and be so resilient that, you know, you still believe in the idea of harmful invaders and harmful organisms that are out there trying to get you. But you also believe that it doesn't matter because you can build up your own faculties so strong to the point where that's irrelevant. So that's one terrain way of looking at it. And that's, I think, more in alignment with truth than modern medicine, but it still doesn't fully cover the totality of what's going on, which is that there are no microbes to fight to begin with. You don't need to, it's not about building up your immune system so that you can go to war with anything that comes in your way, and that you have the heavy artillery, the cellular heavy artillery to nuke and destroy whatever comes in. No, that's not what happens. There's not just a war going on in your body nonstop. Well, maybe mentally for people, but in terms of the microbes, that's not what's going on. Our bodies are 50%, when it comes to cells, 50%, if not more, bacterial cells than human cells. We literally are a huge network of microbes. So just when you think about it logically, I know people are going to have maybe, cognitive dissonance when they first hear these ideas, and that's fine and that's okay. But just when you think about it logically, we are microbes. So just the idea that microbes are working for us and with us, that makes perfect sense in general. But what I also want to get into is these organisms in our body known as mycozyma. Now, mycozyma are essentially the stem cells to microorganisms in our body. So just like we have stem cells to produce, liver cells or brain cells or eye cells, whatever organ, we have these non-specific stem cells that we can utilize. Well, the same is true for microbes. We have these quote-unquote microbial stem cells known as mycozyma that can change into different organisms based on the situation in the body. So germs are there to eat away, again, they're there to eat away diseased and dying tissue and to remove toxicity from the body. They're a garbage cleanup crew. Germs can transform into other germs based on the terrain, just like, again, the stem cells in our body can transform into multiple organ cells. The body initiates specific organisms for specific purposes, but modern medicine blames their presence for the disease state. Again, akin to blaming a firefighter for why there's a fire. No, they're there to help. They're a byproduct of why there's a problem to begin with. They did not cause the problem. And this is also why antibiotic resistance is always going to be a thing, but not for the reasons that people may think it. It's because nature is always going to adapt. It's not because, again, that they're at war with us. It's not because, we're nuking them and then they're going back and they're creating a better shield for our nuke. No, they are doing that, but it's not because they're going to war with us. They're doing it because that's what nature does. And no matter what man does to stop nature from doing what it naturally does, it's never going to happen. Just like you can nuke the planet, and what's going to happen? Eventually, there's going to be lush greenery and life everywhere. Doesn't matter that, and you would never even know that we just nuked and completely destroyed the planet. And the same thing is going on when it comes to antibiotics and these organisms. We can destroy them as much as we want. We can throw all sorts of drugs at them. But at the end of the day, what they're naturally designed to do, what their inherent role is, why they exist in nature, is to break down necrotic tissue. And so as long as there's necrotic tissue to be broken down, they're going to eventually find their way back. And then modern medicine is going to label it as antibiotic resistance. And it's not antibiotic resistance. It's that they're resisting, they're working with you. They're essentially resisting the onslaught of drugs that you're putting into your system and trying to help you. So they're trying to help do their job naturally in spite of the fact that you're trying to nuke them. So that's really what's going on. And again, nature and these organisms, they're always trying to find a way to restore and remediate their environment, even when that environment is you. Thank you very much, and I hope this was informative for a lot of you guys.